Hello, folks. I'm here, Wayne A. at the Emerald Ball Dancesport Championship held in Dallas 2021. And today I have some very exciting people with me, and we're going to get right into it. But let me introduce them first. It's Max Sinitsa, and then we have Sophia D'Angelo, also known as, in your book,
Yes, also as Sherry Rosenfeld.
Sophia, in 1 minute or less, give me an overview about the book you wrote.
Okay. Basically, it's taking the lessons that we learn in our ballroom dancing in all styles and sort of marrying it to the ideas, sort of complicated concepts of coupled relationships, but by making it easily digestible for people when they're thinking about their own relationships in life, by using the symbols, the ideas, the concepts that we have that we learn while we're dancing, because we're both in coupled relationships. One are intimate relationships, and the others are these partners, teachers and students, dancers and dancers, amateurs. It doesn't matter, but it is different than a coupled relationship, except it's not in some ways. So we can learn from it and grow.
Okay, so when I was dancing with my wife, Donna, and I recall that we didn't fight that much. We don't really fight a lot. I think that's more my nature. I don't like to engage in it. And so if I was coming to you and I'm talking to you about it, is there any insights to that?
Well, yeah, there is. I mean, firstly, I don't know you as a couple, so it would be hard, but I'm going to do it just in the broad overview, right?
Right,
So,
okay.
But the idea is that, people communicate in a lot of different ways, and sometimes fighting is a way that they feel works for them. But it does erode the relationship because it can be seen as very passionate. It can be seen as helpful, but it also can be really destructive. So there are other ways to communicate, and like what I say in the book is that, what we're doing in dancing is communicating through our body, and it's less. It's more direct in a lot of ways and less eroding of a relationship. So when I work with couples, I would have asked you more about what it is that you feel one or the other is not hearing, that you need to raise it up to that level, and that why you couldn't communicate more the way that you do when you're dancing. If we hold hands and he directs me, I'm getting a very clear signal. If he, if I squeeze his hand too hard for something, he's getting a very clear signal that I'm either not ready, too fired, and he can actually make some body adjustments that's more communicative than if he yelled at me and said, move, or stop that or something. I mean, that can be disruptive to a person, but your body doesn't usually disrupt people. It sends a very clear communication, like, hold up.
I see.
Right? So somehow it sounds like you one or the other just didn't feel as if they were being heard. So you have to raise it up.
I see that. Max,
Yeah.
So from the book, from the years, when did you write this book? A year ago? When did it come out?
Oh, when did it come out?
Yeah.
Oh, just about
Recently.
6 months ago.
Right.
But I've been writing it for since I've been with him, probably about 4 or 5 years I've been writing.
Were you aware she was writing this book during that time?
I think I was aware that she makes a journal or some sort of personal notes about, her experience, whether it's good or bad, how she goes through her prime experience, her dance experience. I think I was aware that, you were just journaling things, but it did eventually, Sophia just said, by the way, I finished my book.
And after you read the book,
Yeah.
what was your reaction?
My reaction was that, I always knew that Sophia was a licensed therapist. This is what she did, successful as well. But that's not the person I work with on a daily basis. I work with Sophia, the dancer,
Right.
who is trying to improve, who I'm trying to help improve. So in front of me, I see a student who is, there for me to help, and I do competitions with her and all that. So I didn't really see that in other part of Sophia, and in that kind of, massive way. So when I read the book, it was clearly showed to me that she's not just a typical, student that you would have. This is someone who is taking this whole thing in and then putting it on paper, adds her professional knowledge to it. So it was half surprise, half, it was a pleasurable surprise, but it was just like, wow, you really thought about this. This is not just I want to write a coffee table book, about my experience of Pro-Am. That's not what this is about. Because a lot of people can do that. I think that's very normal to do. I'll probably write one at some point about my experience.
So after to now, have you taken anything from the book to apply to your personal relationship? Did anything like, well, I read the book, now maybe I'm going to use something from this book?
Yeah, I think I realized that I use a lot of things already without knowing, or they weren't labeled until you read the book.
Such as?
Such as the communication part. We will often communicate physically, non-verbally, or I will say, look, Sophia, instead of giving you the theory about this and that, let me just dance that with you and see if you understand it through that, and then we can continue to talk about it. So it's not always a mechanical explanation of something. So we've done that before. I realized that in my personal relationship with my wife, who's not my dance partner, Tatiana,
right,
partner. So that's a relationship is separate to my wife. And I realized that, let's say I, for example, use a lot of humor to end an argument. So that was my father did. That is what I do.
Okay, Sophia, what do you think about that? He uses humor, and what I do, I just try to walk away from it and let you keep talking. Yes, I agree. And then I hear what you're saying. And I think I've been not criticized. I've been told that sometimes I keep an employee for way too long. Because I guess my heart doesn't tell me to let that person go. I want to work with that person. And then when I do make that decision, why didn't I do that 3 years ago or 2 years ago? So I asked you two questions. So, okay.
I think that the latter question is or thought has a lot. My feeling,
Yeah.
my personal feeling, the way that I would work with something is that it's a lot about some sort of fear of confrontation. That we all, having people angry with you or being angry is uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable. So we all use mechanisms to sort of neutralize that. Some people like to go head on, and that's sometimes abrasive. It's intense, but it also can really unload and be clean and help a relationship grow or help it end, whichever way it's supposed to go. But like humor or walking away is a way of sort of keeping confrontation lower than you want it to be. That it's uncomfortable. That it could be uncomfortable, and facing that. So. Unless you go sort of into therapy and the person finds that, if his wife finds that absolutely annoying, which I don't think she does, then there's an issue. But if it actually, I had a brother that did that with me. If we got into any kind of tussle, then he would tickle me until I laughed hysterically, and then he was like, "Well, you're obviously not that angry anymore." And that was like how, and I'd be like, "Okay, fine," because he didn't like to fight, and so that, it's not necessarily, defenses that we have are not necessarily bad. They're adaptive. So what you're, unless it doesn't work for Donna, unless she really says, "Come back in here, you need to know, what you're feeling," and you go, no, and you walk away, then you have an issue. But like I say to couples, if it's communicated, if it's working, well then don't fix it, right?
Unfortunately, it's not always working.
Couples are constantly in construction. It doesn't. It never stops. I mean, if it stops, then a lot of times then it dies. The work has to keep going because we're growing. You get used to your person, and then your couple, the person in your couple, and the thing that you fell in love with is the thing often that could drive you crazy. Absolutely drive you crazy.
That's correct. And as we go through different stages of our lives, like you and I have kids, or before kids, then you have kids, then they're all growing up, how you went into dancing. So we go through different stages. We're way ahead of you, Matt. So you're not quite there with us yet.
Not in a hurry. That's the thing.
But you know what? I always feel like, you'll get there too. When I think I'm too old or something, and I look at some 20-year-old girl, I'm like, yeah, you'll be here one day.
Quicker than you think, right?
Yeah.
Right. And how you get there is important.
Right. So, Sophia, as you walk into ballroom, you've been to many comps, and you're an accomplished pro-am dancer, champion, and you see not just professionals, but pro-am, and they're fighting on the floor. What goes through your mind? Because when I see a lot of fighting, and we all engage in going back and forth, but when I see real fighting, and you can see that, what goes through your mind as you see this?
Well, I mean, I can have my own personal feeling, but that isn't really as important. But if I'm looking at it with a different hat on, like I said, I mean, I think that the frustration level of who's boss and who's going to do what here, and you can't, if it's a couple that's always fighting, then they're having a real difficult time with allowing somebody to be the lead and becoming the follower in those moments. Like, to just understand, like in my book, as I write, sort of the rhythm of a couple. When you're connected to another person, whether it's dancing or in an intimate relationship, you do have to learn their rhythm and step out of their way sometimes and give them some room to move, to sort of like the ballroom frame, right? You can't sort of be in his space, and he can't be in yours. And you have to give somebody, as Max has been teaching me, really closed ballroom positions. It really is an interesting concept. Remember you were telling me that, a long time ago it was about sort of staying away, not getting so close, right? The woman is sort of saying, no. And that is learning to be respectful of somebody's space, their time, their who they are, right? You don't encroach on someone. And in no dancing do we ever, unless it's unless you're doing some sort of interesting thing, right? You're very, very connected together. Mostly you're giving him and her, or her and her, or whomever's dancing, but you're giving the person space. So I think when you start to fight on the ball, when you're fighting like that, it says so much about the lead, the follow, and the unwillingness to give somebody just give him time for a second, or give her a moment, or listen to what she's saying. And then, why does it need to be so volatile if it's about, or that something else is going on, something else. And if they're a married couple or a in-love couple or a, intimate couple, then something's going on somewhere, maybe.
Well, that's probably true. I think it carries over personal to the dancing. I think it's true even if you're not married. When you say that, Matt, if you were to practice with whoever your partners is, it depends on the day you wake up. What has happened the night before, your feeling, your vibrations. Did you have your coffee, or you might have missed your coffee? You walk in, how your partner gives you the first look, that will trigger something.
Yeah, but I think that's also a very important reason why I've been in both shoes, where I've been involved personally with my partners, and I've also half of my partners were also someone I wasn't involved with. Tatiana being one of the partnerships that I wasn't involved with personally, but it made it very clear that when we got into that room to practice, we were there to do that together, or to travel together, or to compete, and that balanced out the fact that things didn't happen outside of that between us, because A, we didn't spend the time together, and B, because we weren't involved, personally. So I think for me, it was a healthier setup, and I think Tatiana would say the same. Even though it seems like a wonderful idea to do everything together. But as you know, even with business, it doesn't always, husband and wife or two people involved don't always work well together when they have a common goal.
That's a good point. Like Donna and I don't do the same type of work. We have our own little projects that we do, and that what makes a healthy relationship. And sometimes if you're doing the same thing, that's where you say, well, black or white, and then you start engaging.
Well, not only that you're doing the same thing, you're doing it for the same reasons, most likely, and the goal is most likely the same. Plus, you are doing mechanically similar things at the same time in the same space. So I can't think of a worse kind of combination for problems to start to happen if people are not careful.
Right. I think also on the flip side of that is our couples. My husband and I don't do the same thing at all. So we needed to find something to make sure that we continue to stay connected. And one of the things he's done has been, a lot of people know him now. He feels sort of part of the ballroom world. Is to come and watch and be connected with the people that I'm connected with, and to be really good, very friendly with Max and any of the guys that I'm dancing with, and we've included them in our family and our life, and when we've been dancing, when I've been dancing with any of my teachers and partners, but that also can be difficult if you're really separate. As you get, I'm now married 33 years, right? You can become really separate, very, very separate, or you have to find something to reconnect. I mean, he can't dance. I didn't mean to say it like that. I'm sorry.
Right, I know what you mean. His interest is not in dancing. Right.
It's not, and mine is not in the things that he does. So, we're grown up, so we can do what we want to do and appreciate. Mostly, it's about. I mean, as I write, it is about learning how to respect your partner, both this partnership and your coupled partnership. Respect is huge.
I can't stress what you just say enough. It's like with Donna and myself, she has certain things she loves to do. I certainly wouldn't want to spend my time doing it, but you're right. I have to respect what she likes to do. And one of the things she likes to do is not go shopping, not necessarily just buying, but she would enjoy 6-7 hours just looking at shops and stuff. That would be agony for me. That would be like, this is work.
You're on the bench.
This is work. Yeah, and I would say, store, where's the sofa for me? Because I'm taking my wife out here in 15 minutes. But you're right, respecting each other, and there's things that I do that she's not interested in. And I can't emphasize that a lot. Do you have something with your wife that you do opposite?
Well, she does happen to be a dancer, which doesn't change anything because we don't dance together. But yeah, I okay, I have this thing that I do. I have a classic car at home that I like to take a drive out in on a Sunday. It's a day off.
Sunday.
A lot of guys take their cars out. We meet up. We have coffee. You know, there are no dancers. It's just normal people, so to say.
Right, right. Wait, we're not normal people? I'm kidding. I have heard that a lot.
So they most of them don't know that I just flew in from some competition, and all they know is that I'm just there. Anyway, I specifically like to do that drive alone. I do not like to take anyone, including my wife. And she knows that, and she's completely okay with it. She doesn't ask me. She just knows. She just says, "What time are you going to be back?" And I said, "I'll be back when I'll." Yeah, I'll say I'll be back when I'll be back. I don't know. Depends on the ride. You know.
I love that. That's where she's giving you your space. She's not saying what time you're going to be back. You feel your freedom.
Yes.
Number one importance, I think, in a relationship: freedom and respect. Because without it, the opposite is horrific, right? Disrespect and being caged or suffocated is impossible. So whatever their rhythm is, she understands his rhythm. He needs obviously some time to check out. You know, talking all day, teaching all day, touching all day. You know, is tough, right? So he needs the fresh air. He needs to go, and she's good about it. So, you know, kudos to her. She's figured it. You know, they've figured it out. But yeah, it is very difficult. It's not difficult.
I have yet to actually give Anastasia in some parts the same, because she loves to go social dancing, and I don't dislike it, but that's like, you know. What?
Busman's holiday.
Well, it's it's tough to actually relax in the fact that is what I do, but not to think. It's actually very difficult to just go social dancing with your wife, who's also a dancer, you know. And I've been doing it all day, or let's say all week, and so. But she likes the going out and dining and doing a vintage type of outing. You know, swing dancing, things like that. So that's harder for me to do, given my profession as well.
I understand 1,000%. You know, there's a nice place in LA someone told me about. You can do that. It's actually, I forgot who, but I didn't even know about in Los Angeles.
Okay.
It brings you back to the 50s club with a balcony. You eat with a band, and you just dance socially.
We've been to a few of those.
Yeah, but to your point, I agree, because when I stop with my other friends, non-dancing friends, they said, "Let's go nightclub, party," and I say, I've done that all my life. I had a studio, I party, I've done it. Last thing I want to do is go to a nightclub, blast, drink, and party.
Yep.
And the second thing is social dancing, because I didn't teach a lot. I taught for a year. I ran a studio, but teaching wasn't my passion, which is just me.
Yeah.
And so when people said, "Let's social dance," I'm thinking, believe it or not, I was a competitive dancer.
Yeah.
I don't know how to social dance. And one of my things is to go take lessons under another name and go to a studio and begin again and learn the social dance.
Right. So,
Yeah.
well, we literally sometimes want to just go and enjoy ourselves, and it's ironic that both of us are highly trained in that skill.
Yes.
And yet we know when we're dancing on the floor, you know, when we're social dancing after the dinner, you know, and the band is playing.
Right. Yeah.
You do feel like you're in your 50s, and people will come up to us and ask us all kinds of questions, and we're just social dancing, but apparently it still comes through.
Right.
You know, but it's a very unusual thing, I guess, to do.
Yeah, it is. I can relate. Sophia, let's get back to your book. Well, I didn't read the whole book because I just got it prior to Emerald, so I went and read sections of it. But what I gathered from the book and learned from the book so far is the communication is not just verbal, but it's also my body language, how I hold my partner's hand or put my arm around her, kind of like dancing. So that's what I thought one of your major point is. Am I right or wrong?
Yes, I think one of the biggest points is about, so I put little vignettes of couples that I've worked with and ways that I work. So I have a sort of a different way of working. I'm what they call psychodynamically trained. So that's a sort of a way, I'm a psychotherapist, so it's a particular way that we work. And how I work is from the idea that the people in our lives that we've been, that are very important people like parents and siblings and mates, whatever, sort of help us find our identity. The ways in which we communicate are critical because they also, what gets stored in us are a lot of memories, ideas of who we are, based on how, let's say, my parents interacted with me. So it gave me information about me. So does your environment, gives you information about you and the people around you. But that information then translates to your partner. And like I say in the book, sometimes the most dangerous thing are the words that we use. It gets very confusing. So when we're talking, you can insult someone or hurt someone in ways that you didn't, maybe you didn't even mean to. Words are really difficult. So the way that I work with couples a lot of times is to pay more attention to the body language. Often I'll have them hold their hands if they agree to do it. And by holding hands and not talking, you get a lot of information. So one of the things that's in the book is that when I asked this couple, having the two men, and they were holding their hands, and I asked them what it felt like, and the other one person said, I was really anxious. Like I could feel maybe he didn't even want to hold my hand. So in his mind, he's going into, I don't think he wants to hold my hand. I don't think he's attracted to me. I don't think this is going to work. And the other person is saying, I could feel that he was pulling away. So I was already feeling like this isn't going to work. So here was this agitation. Once they would do that every week, just about the first 5 minutes, they began to relax and get a little bit more information from their hand. Like they could get energy. You can't believe like the energy that you get from holding someone's hand. That's actually how the book started and why the front cover was of Max and me holding our hands. Wow. Because it was so, I can't even tell you, and I think a lot of programs will say this, that concept of holding somebody else's hand that you're not in a relationship with and then you get information from was mind-blowing. It was like, is this okay? What? And then you find it is okay, but you're getting information. Like, for example, I can tell, if I'm really nervous, he can probably feel it in my hand. But if I feel his hand very relaxed, that can actually calm me down. So my brain's taking in information from his body to my body. We haven't said a word to each other. I'm now walking out on the floor, and I'm calm, right? So he's just taken my hand, and he's just led me out there. I've been with people who have taken my hand and actually squeezed the fingers really hard. And when you do that, the body jacks up, everything gets really, and then now you're a little going off in a different direction, right? So it is, I think you're right, that a lot of the book, it's all about the physical communications that we have with our partners by using these concepts from Waller, right? Waiting, communicating, your masculinity, femininity, leading and following. All those things are critical. And if you can pay attention to yourself while you're dancing with your partner or teacher, and then use it in your life. Like when Max said to me, this is sort of another one of these moments that hit me. I'm going to write this book. He used to say in the very beginning when we met, I'm not quite sure when we're doing close hold, why you're so far from me. Why do you feel you need to be so far? He's like, if you get closer, it will be easier on me. And I would say, because I'm scared, I'm going to get in your way and trip you. And so it meant that I was doing something. I felt I would do something to him. And he was saying, no, you don't understand. You're making it harder for me, and we will trip if you're that far, because I'm expecting you to be really connected to me. So the more I start to trust Max that I really believed, I'm not going to trip him, and he's going to help me get there. The more I relaxed and let him guide me, and still stayed on my own feet, but let him take me where I need to go. So, yes.
Wow, that was well said. Love that. What you just mentioned. So true. Matt, any last word before we go?
No, I think it's quite an accomplishment on a personal note, that you gathered, not just the experience of dancing with me, but the experience of dancing with other people prior to me. And it all is in that book, plus Sophia's experience working with just couples, non-dancing couples, all of that. So it's all kind of mushed into the book, and I think that's what makes it really cool, that it's from a perspective of almost multiple personalities. You know what I mean? You have the, well, not to, you know what I mean?
In a positive way.
Yeah.
In a positive way. I know what you're saying.
I think
No.
that is a really hot subject.
No. That's a separate subject with the names. But I mean, I'm talking about Sophia being the pro-am dancer, Sophia being the psychotherapist, Sophia being the mother, Sophia being the wife. So, you know what I mean? There's the sister and all that. It's all coming from multiple views. That's what I mean by multiple.
Right. I hear what you're saying. And I think we're fortunate in our world, the dance world, how we meet so many people like Sophia and what we learn from them. And I will say from years, so many people we met as students that enrich our lives. So Sophia, can you put that book up and have that camera? And Sophia, where can we get that book?
It's the only place you really can get the book is through this bookstore called Politics and Prose, and it's in Washington D.C. And I have a Facebook page called Dance in the Creative Couple, and you can just log right into this particular website and
Okay, we're going to get all that info. So thank you, folks, for watching us, and I hope you watch to the end here, because I have a secret to tell you. That's the nuts. But so I'm kidding. So I'm here with Sophia Matz in Dallas, Texas, a different environment for us. Thank you very much for joining us today.